Surprise. Didn't expect me on a Tuesday, did you? Yeah. I like to do these going deeper videos mostly on Mondays, but I had to work at the clinic yesterday. So, this week, and I think next week, Tuesday it is. I'm going to wait a couple minutes for folks to come on. And if no one comes on, you can always come back and watch it later, right? It's cool to have, you never know who's going to jump on. These live videos here are mostly for our church folks, but it's cool to see other people jump on that, you may not expect. That's always neat. We're just going to wait another minute or two while we're hanging around waiting. We've been talking about spiritual warfare, you guys know, looking in Ephesians 6, but I'll tell you a really good book on spiritual warfare, if you like to read, is this right here. It's backwards right now, but God at War, man, by Greg Boyd. Good book. It's not that bad. It's about 300 pages. Pretty theologically dense, so that's why I say, you really gotta like to read. It's a really good book, though. I referenced it a lot in a paper that I wrote for a systematic theology class. I wrote it on Christus Victor. You may not know what that means, but it's probably one of the better papers I've written, in theology at least. But yeah, good book, God at War. I don't know if I've ever shown you this on my desk, but the guy who wrote the book, he's a pastor up, I think, in Minnesota, but he's got an autistic son, and one of the ways his son expresses himself is by making these little clay figures. This guy sits on my desk. His name is Wild Wookie Wonder. That was his name when I bought him. But his eyes are so big because the young man that made him said he made the eyes big to remind us to look into people and not just at them. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, but anyway, we're on here today just to go a little bit deeper from the message on Sunday. The message on Sunday was called Out of the Waters. You guys know we're in this series in Ephesians 6. We're talking about spiritual warfare. Right now, we're just giving a huge, broad overview of what spiritual warfare is, what it looks like, coming at it from just a real broad theological perspective. 2 weeks ago, we talked about Jesus over the waters, just this idea that there is a demonic spiritual realm, that Jesus is over it, always has been over it, always will be over it. Last week, or 2 days ago, was out of the waters. And we talked about how when we come into a relationship with Jesus, he pulls us out of that. So the authority that the enemy had over us, when we come to Jesus, that power's broken. We looked at Colossians 2, where Paul says that on the cross, Jesus triumphed over and disarmed the powers and authorities that held us captive. And that was the main idea yesterday. The thing I want to go deeper with you today on is this idea. So last week we looked a little bit at the Exodus in the Old Testament and how the Exodus in the Old Testament is a type, shadow, a picture, Gower, of our spiritual reality in Christ now as New Testament believers. And so here were the Israelites. They were in Egypt. They were in bondage in Egypt. Not only in bondage, hey Alan, hey Kim, not only in bondage to the Egyptian government, but the gods, the spiritual forces that the Egyptians worshipped. So they're bound in this. They're held away from God. They're kidnapped. They're oppressed. They're in slavery. They have to do what they don't want to do. They're forced. They have no way to get to God, no way to get to their freedom. So God takes Moses, and God goes in to the enemy's turf himself to get them. And God takes them out, right? He parts the Red Sea, takes them through the waters, out of their demonic bondage, hey Donna, and into their freedom. Right? God goes in, takes his people out of captivity into freedom. In the same way, before Jesus, we were in bondage. Jesus came on the enemy's turf, invaded the enemy's turf, right? The New Testament talks a lot about Satan and the principalities and powers having legitimate, actual power and authority on earth. Jesus came onto the enemy's turf, came in as an act of warfare, got us, right, in a sense, and set us free. And so the picture is, like we compared the Exodus, the people coming through the divided waters into their freedom, following God, with, in the New Testament, the picture of baptism, right? You go under the waters and you come up out of the waters and follow Jesus into your freedom. That's awesome. That is a beautiful thought. And a lot of times in our culture, right, American culture, which is really very individualistic, we typically tend to see that in really individualistic terms. Okay, we think about that solely as me. Okay, I came out of bondage. Now I'm in relationship with Jesus. I have my walk with God. I'm free. Me, right? And that's very, very true. But what we miss, I think, often in our culture is the broader picture. When you look back at Exodus, right, God brought out individuals from their bondage, but he also brought them out as an entire people, an entire nation, an entire family. And when they came through the waters, they didn't just separate and go their own way. They remained a nation, a people, a family, together, functioning together with a purpose under God's care and his direction now that they're free. That's true of us in a New Testament reality. Like, that's true for us as followers of Jesus right now. I want you to look at this passage this week, and I want you to think about it. It's in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 9 and 10. So here's what Peter says. He's talking to believers, okay, followers of Jesus, and he says, "But you are a chosen people." Not a chosen person. He says, you are a chosen people. A royal priesthood. Not a royal priest, a royal priesthood. Right? A holy nation. Not a holy person, a holy nation. God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous or wonderful light. Hello, Nikki Hayhurst. Once you were not a people, there's that plural again, right? People, but now you are the people, collective of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So Peter's painting this, it's the same kind of picture, right? You were once in darkness, and now you've been brought into the light. And when you came out of the darkness, out of the slavery, out of the waters, however you want to say it, right? Out of your death, into light, into life, into relationship with Jesus, you became part of a people, a holy nation, a royal priesthood. You became God's possession. And he talks about that collectively. So here's what I want you to think about this week, and maybe start a conversation about in the comments below as people are watching this through the week. If that's how God sees us, not just as a holy person, but as a holy people, just like he brought the Israelites out as a people and they stayed together in their freedom, God calls us out of darkness into this family, this priesthood, this people, this nation called the church, the children of God. What does that mean for us in our relationship with one another and with church, the church, a church, going to church? What does that mean? What does that have to do with us and our local church? When God calls us to freedom, He doesn't just call us to be individual people going around in freedom. He calls us to a people, a nation, right? We, the church. What does that mean for us and the church? What is our relationship to the church then supposed to look like? How deep is it supposed to be? Like, how close are we supposed to be? How tight are we supposed to be? Look up these passages that talk about this stuff. Like, look up the passage where Paul is talking about the church as a body. And he's saying that every part is important. You get one part injured, one part cut off, the rest of you feels it. All right? Every part has its job. And when one part's missing, all the other parts feel it. When one part rejoices, all parts rejoice. When one part mourns, all parts mourn. I'm like, what does he mean by that? That if one part of the body is missing, the rest suffers for it. What does he mean in Galatians 4 when he talks about all of us being sons and daughters of one Father, one Abba, one Daddy? How does that maybe push back against the traditional American view of Christianity, where it's just me and Jesus, and I don't need anybody else, and no one else really needs me? That's what I want you to think about this week. We're called to freedom. Jesus has freed us from the powers, right? He's freed us from the grip of the enemy. But when he did that, he freed us out of that into a family, a holy nation, a royal priesthood, a people. Think about that this week. Pray about that this week. And when you get some thoughts on it, I'd love for you to comment below and get a conversation going. What does that mean about my relationship to the big church and to my local church? That I am a part of a family, a priesthood, a nation, a people. All right. Hey, thanks for hanging out, guys. Thank you for going a little deeper with me today. I'm going to get back to working on my message for next week. It's called Discerning the Waters. I'm pretty pumped about it. I think it's going to be really good stuff for you to feed on next week. So anyway, have a wonderful week, guys. Love you. If you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. I will see you when I see you. Have a great one.